Oh, hey! Welcome back to Chez Garbage. You're actually here a little early this season. See, Oh, sorry. Hold up. I gotta get that. Moshi Moshi, how can I... Sweet Haruhi. What? A new Netflix anime show just hit the second tower.
In Japan, where I was born, they call me Kakegurui.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Actually, Peter, they don't call it that. They call it bet.
You are going to war in a place where your opponents controls the battlefield.
I'm ready. You can bet on me.
There it is! There it is!
You know, as in gambling, but also as in the AAVE term, as used in the following example dialogue. Yo, Netflix, bruv, it would be crazy if you made a worse live-action anime thing than Cowboy Bebop, innit? Alright, bet. And in that regard, it's actually a perfect title for the show, signifying not only what the story is about, but also that its heroine never backs down from a challenge, and also that its creators are a bunch of 40-year-old men desperately scrambling to make something that speaks to the youth. Did they succeed? I don't know, I'm not the youth. I had to Google how to use bet in a sentence. Also, I still Google things. All I can offer you is my own painfully honest thoughts.
He said it! He said it!
On how bet fails as an anime adaptation, a trendy teen mystery drama, and possibly a multi-million-dollar corporate-backed shitpost. Or succeeds. Maybe it succeeds. Who knows? It's exactly as much of a mystery as any of the mysteries in this mystery show. And we'll get to solving it in just a sec, right after telling you about today's sponsor, Crystal of Atlan, a brand new MMORPG out today for mobile, PlayStation, and PC that invites you to run wild across a gorgeous magic punk world of sky islands and ancient ruins and cut loose in fluid, combo-driven combat with an exhilarating emphasis on verticality. Craft your own badass anime adventurer from 11 different classes, each of which has over 20 potential skill loadouts and many more build options to fine-tune your playstyle, and all of which are unlocked from the jump with no character gacha. So the only thing standing between you and victory is time and your own skill, which will be tested mightily across the game's solo campaign, not to mention challenging 4-player co-op dungeons and brutal 8-man raids designed to push your guild, or fleet as they call it here, to the limit. You and your friends can also test your bonds in the Fleet Mine War, a limited-time multiplayer mode blending PvP and PvE elements into massive cross-server battles. Or you can dive into the arena, either solo or in squads of 3, to prove your mastery of the game in highly competitive PvP matches with separate balancing from the PvE modes to ensure that skill trumps all. To celebrate the launch and 8 million pre-registrations, Crystal of Atlan is offering generous 7-day login rewards to anyone who joins the fun. Just play for 2 consecutive days to unlock a free maid outfit and 1 more to get an adorable free pet. Click the link in the doobly-doo to start playing on your platform of choice today, and don't forget to use the promo code COA-TEAMUP528 to unlock a bunch of cool rewards. First questions first. Is Bet a good adaptation of Kakegurui? Okay, fair. Follow-up question, though. Does it need to be? Because it's pretty clear it doesn't want to be. It's going for more of a spiritual adaptation type thing, or alternate universe retelling if you want to be a nerd about it, in the vein of Netflix Death Note, Riverdale, or the Steve Carell Office, taking the base components of the original concept and building them into something fundamentally new, which certainly isn't going to make the fans happy, but does give the show a chance to step out of the anime's shadow and find new fans. A creative risk that I do respect on principle. The Death Note fan in me is mixed on Netflix's version, but as a Final Destination enjoyer and Willem Dafoe appreciator, I had an absolute blast watching it. My inner Archie fan likewise roils at Riverdale's betrayal of its source material, but as a camp connoisseur, I've come to appreciate that What If Glee Was Twin Peaks is a very worthwhile creative question to be asking. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you that folks have been debating which version of The Office is better since the first American season dropped. Over the years, I've become a firm believer in appreciating art for what it is instead of resenting it for what it's not. And I actually learned that lesson from Kakegurui. Many years ago, in the hater era of this channel, I made a video arguing that Kakegurui is a terrible gambling anime because, well, basically because it's not kaiji. And while I don't regret using the negativity bias of the algorithm to boost an underrated classic like kaiji, I do regret putting Kakegurui down to do it, because Kakegurui was never trying to be kaiji. It was trying to be an even hornier version of Yu-Gi-Oh! With Yuri instead of Yaoi. And in that regard, it succeeds magnificently.
Now cluck like a chicken.
What?
A chicken! No!
Even recent seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself don't capture the insanity of Season 0 nearly as well as Kakegurui does. And for years, I stupidly stopped myself from enjoying it by wishing it was something it never was gonna be. I don't want to make that mistake again, which is why I think it's important to give Bet a proper chance and judge it on its own terms. Doesn't mean I gotta like it, just that I gotta be fair. That said, it's not completely different. Much like Kakegurui, Bet is set in a fancy gambling high school where the rich asshole kids of rich assholes learn how to be rich assholes by climbing a gamified social ladder tied to their success in casino games, where those who fall into debt become the winner's effective slaves. We follow a compulsive gambling prodigy named Yumeko, who's come to the school to turn that whole hierarchy upside down, starting by liberating a house pet guy whose name starts with Rai from a very unlucky twin-tailed tsundere named Mary. But immediately, keen-eyed fans of the anime will start to notice some big changes. Mary, for instance, is now black-haired, which kind of looks a little dumb because she's also got a black ribbon on. They fix that later by giving her a red ribbon, and that solves my only complaint about the character. Eve Edwards plays the part perfectly. The scheming, the attitude, the latent lesbianism, probably the closest performance in the whole show to its anime counterpart. Just fantastic casting.
Oh, why thank you, house pet. Now get the out of my face.
Oh, also, obviously, her name is no longer Mary Saotome because she is not Japanese anymore. They do that to a lot of names, though also somehow not enough. But Hyako Academy, for instance, is no longer Hyako Academy. The fancy rich asshole gambling school has become St. Dominic's Prep, or STD Prep for short, which means all of the kids walk around with a big red STD emblazoned on their jumpers. And I am not convinced this is unintentional, but we'll put a pin in that for now. They even changed names they didn't have to. Like, even though she is still Japanese, Yumeko isn't a Jabami anymore. She's Yumeko Kawamoto, because I guess Jabami didn't sound Japanesey enough to the people writing this. Except, plot twist, she actually was a Jabami all along. She was simply using a pseudonym to enter the fancy gambling school undercover. Also in that opening scene where she's playing poker with the Breakfast Club, that's a ploy to get her expelled from a regular high school so as to reinforce her cover story somehow. Because, you know, people are less suspicious of you when you have an expulsion on your permanent record at a very fancy school for rich kids. And the reason she's gone incognito is to track down the rich asshole alumnus who murdered her parents. This is also like Kakegurui, except for the part where Kakegurui decided to leave Yumeko's motivations a mystery for most of the story, thus framing her as this inexplicable and irresistibly compelling force of nature tearing through the school like a horny gambling tornado and forcing the audience and the characters around her to try to puzzle out what makes her tick and why getting 21 in blackjack makes her come. Bet, on the other hand, just immediately tells you what Yumeko's whole deal is, because if your second screen show ever makes you ask a question or think about stuff, you might get distracted enough to lose a round of Marvel Snap, and that would be terrible. But okay, remember, we are trying not to condemn this show for what it's not. We're trying to judge it for what it is, or at least what it's trying to be. And what Bet is trying to be is Riverdale, or Wednesday, or The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. You know, a Nickelodeon, Disney Channel tier teen drama, except they and or commit murder sometimes while they are solving a big overarching mystery. And, like, in my humble opinion, Who Done Car Bombed the Jabamis is not nearly as interesting a mystery as who is this crazy woman and why is she eye-fucking the roulette table, but there are dangers to making your heroine too enigmatic in this sort of show. Like, if Yumeko's gonna be trying to explode a guy with a pipe bomb as early as episode 4, before we've really gotten to know her, while that guy's daughter is putting on an honestly pretty sick clarinet performance of the final countdown. Then for Yumeko to stay sympathetic, we kind of need to know exactly why she would do that, which in this case is because she saw a picture of the dude hanging out with her parents in a yearbook, and he has the same nickname as a guy she remembers yelling at them once, soon before they got car bombed. Ah, jeez, Yumeko, Look, I'm not some prude. I'm not saying don't do a terrorism. I'm just saying maybe, like, work a little harder to make sure you have the right guy first.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Okay, I know I was just telling her not to do terrorism, but that's such a cop-out, man. Like, if you're gonna have the yeah, she'd fucking do it moment, then at least actually let her fucking do it. It's especially bad when the episode starts by chickening out of the cliffhanger from the last episode, where she, like, opened that guy's entire jugular all over her room and her roommate's face, but then, like, it's just she was imagining it. That is chicken shit binge bait writing of the lowest order. And Simon Barry, if you are watching this video right now, you should be ashamed of yourself. Doubly ashamed because I just remembered that that's also the episode where the B plot is literally everyone in the school betting on whether Ryan, British Ryota, is going to lose his virginity by midnight. And it's just like Mary trying to teach him game in his dorm room. Man, do I ever hate that. And then, like, somehow that's a ploy to root out traitors on the student council, and, like, the president is the one who put that side bet in. Actually hurts my head just thinking about it. Anywho, the cop-outs don't stop there, because mere minutes after Yumeko's Adaptation original emo loner elite hacker friend Mike stops her from blowing that guy up, someone else blows that guy up and his daughter with a car bomb. And at that point, you're probably thinking, okay, so clearly, same modus operandi. We find the culprit in this crime, that's gonna lead us to the real killer. Red herring gone, the mystery is truly afoot now. But then they just immediately give away that the student council president's younger sister did it at the behest of their rich asshole dad. So we've already got all the clues, like 5 full episodes worth of teen sleuthing before the show expects us to go, oh, the guy who murdered Yumeko's parents with a car bomb is the guy who murdered Yumeko's roommate with a car bomb? I never saw that coming! Whoa! And that's only spoiling it for the second screen audience. Anyone who wasn't staring at Balatro on their phone figured that shit out in episode 1 when they match cut from the president's blue lipstick on a window directly to the exploding car. If you can figure out Blue's Clues, you're officially overqualified for the Bet Writers Room. Speaking of Kira's lipstick, she's called Kira now, the feminine form of the Russian word Kir, or ruler, which actually is a pretty solid localization choice. A hell of a lot better than the choice to leave her lipstick blue, even though her hair is black now, which just does not work at all, in my humble opinion, as very much not a fashion influencer. So let's ask the vegan James Charles wannabe that's supposed to pass for Itsuki in this show what he thinks.
And Mother is mothering with that fierce blue lip.
Okay, let's never ask him anything ever again. Oh, good. The elite emo hacker loner found his secret old redneck hunting influencer TikTok and got him canceled.
You ugly bitches, don't look at me!
Canceled to death.
What a touching memorial for our dear departed Suki.
And with how the rest of the school reacts at his funeral, you'd think he got canceled for actual James Charles shit instead of just fake vegan hypocrisy.
And now there's the conspiracy side bets on how Suki really died. Botox overdose, drowned in a reflecting pool. Ooh, and my personal favorite.
He literally could not even.
Okay, so we're definitely not out of the woods with the cringe dialogue, but at least the worst character is gone.
Foreshadowing is a literary device in which...
Wait, no, I forgot about Chad, Yumeko's roommate's boyfriend, who also happens to be on the student council, because there's only like 12 characters in this entire show. He takes, I'm pretty sure, Kaide's place, and that's definitely the worst character downgrade of anyone in this cast. His personality is exactly the first thing you imagine when you hear the name Chad, and that is literally all he's got going on, except later when the power goes out and they need the leaderboard on a chalkboard, it turns out he's got a photographic memory, and everybody acts like that means he's got some hidden depth to his character, even though that's not a personality trait, it's just a talent. I hate Chad. By the way, with that, we're already halfway through running through the student council, because despite the constant reminders that Yumiko and Mary's ultimate goal is to crack the top 10 on the gambling leaderboard and make it onto the council, which is 10 people, there are only 6 people on the council, and only 3 of them actually gamble Yumiko for any kind of real stakes in the entire show. 4 if you count her playing strip poker with Chad, which I absolutely do not. Runa, she's the school's resident loan shark now, there to make sardonic quips and wear cute kigurumis while basically doing nothing for the plot. I could not tell you a single thing of note about her besides one thing that we're not quite ready to make fun of yet, and I honestly remember more about Suki's sassy gay sidekick in the fuzzy hat, who everyone thought was Runa when the trailers dropped and got really angry about it. Anyway, point is, I could tell you more about that guy's personality than Runa, and his entire personality is sassy and gay. Meanwhile, Riri, Kira's right-hand woman and little sister, is stoic and gay. Specifically gay for Mary, which is actually very accurate to the anime and manga. Good job on that front. Though speaking of anime accuracy, I saw a lot of complaints specifically about how they changed up her shy gal chic mask for essentially a pandemic-era fashion statement, which does look quite dumb. But considering how little she talks in the show, they did kind of need to leave at least part of her face uncovered to give the actress room to actually, you know, act, which she does pretty well. Don't get me wrong, the show severely overhypes her.
Riri, if Bane and the Terminator had a baby.
But she still ends up being a much more intimidating presence than Kira, who, in addition to the lipstick making her look like a fashion-challenged goth wannabe, just talks way too goddamn much. And whines.
God, I have to do everything myself.
Veronica Riverdale is an infinitely scarier rich bitch. Honestly, the only antagonist with any kind of memorable screen presence, at least one that doesn't make me want to hashtag unalive myself, is Dory, Bet's version of Midori, who in the anime was basically psychotic lesbian Kenpachi Zaraki, and that is such an entertaining idea for a character. She handily outshines the entire rest of Bet's student council combined, even after the show's done watering her down. For starters, they completely neuter her backstory. Instead of losing her own eye in a bet, her eye patch is just this experimental screen that shows her 24/7 Subway Surfer footage that her parents put on her because they're game developers, like evil game developers, and they're trying to, like, I don't know, breed ADHD super soldiers or something. Didn't work. Now she's all messed up in the head. That's why she's all messed up in the head. She's not crazy, just misunderstood. Like the Joker in all the versions of Joker stories that people like, because nobody likes it when the Joker's just the Joker. You gotta know what made him say, that's it, I'm gonna become the Joker. Good writing 101, folks. Also, now instead of Yumeko's stalker, she's Yumeko's elite loner emo hacker friend Mike's stalker. A straight up baffling choice on many different levels, not the least of which being this show isn't afraid to show how gay Kakegurui characters are.
If you want, you and I could...
Hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we went together, Yumiko?
That would be hilarious. Could you imagine?
Yeah, totally right.
My best guess is they just figured straight washing her would make it a little easier to cover up the fact that she's just Walmart Roxy Richter now, which doesn't work at all.
Show me yours. I'll show you mine. You gonna tie me up in front of everybody? I knew you were kinky.
But hey, I'd still take Walmart Roxy over Temu Veronica or Whole Foods Jeffree Star any day of the week. That said, it is pretty darn cringe whenever they try to treat her like, you know, a serious character with serious emotional issues and a serious love interest we're supposed to take seriously. Like, maybe this is just me, but I think trying to paint a woman who licks knives for fun and installs cameras in people's rooms to watch them sleep as a sympathetic representation of ADHD might actually be more offensive than just letting her be the Joker. Gets even cringier when they try to make you care about her love interest. And speaking of Mike, he's basically just a walking plot device. He will probably end up saying, that's it, I'm gonna become the Hobgoblin sometime next season, and that might actually give his actor some real material to work with. But right now, his only reasons for existing are to give Yumeko a friend's dad to murder and to set up the side betting system that allows the writers to just do generic teen drama bullshit and say the kids are betting on it so they don't have to actually come up with any original gambles when they run out of episodes to steal from Community. Because of course, the first thing the audience wants to know about this evil private school that is also a casino designed explicitly to mold the next generation of global elites into vicious sociopaths is who's asking who to prom? And even more importantly, can Ryan teach Yumeko how to dance to the tune of What Is Love, Baby Don't Hurt Me in time to win prom king and prom queen for $100,000? Fucking kill me.
What a display! A performance fit for a queen.
I know that voice.
Oh, please, no. Kill me faster! Kill me fast!
The bitch is back.
So, I guess Suki faked his death or whatever. That'll teach me to have hope for things. And then he immediately uncancels himself by just lying and acting like he has nothing to apologize for, which, I mean, that is actually how that works in real life, unfortunately. Then he just sort of declares himself prom queen, even though nobody voted for him, but they all are like, yeah, you're the prom queen, and somehow that means that the actual people who were voted for, Yumeko and Ryan, now have to fight each other to decide who gets to be the prom king, and the loser has to become a house pet because, the writers needed Yumeko to be a house pet in the next episode so that she could then get Most Dangerous gamed. Also, it helps them create some artificial late second act conflict within her friend group that they can overcome and shore up their bonds or whatever. And of course, they can't just get her there by having her lose at regular gambling because, prom episode! Look, I do understand the impulse to mix up the show's status quo with event stories. That's standard writing for American high school stuff. Establish your ordinary world, then take the characters somewhere interesting. Anime does it all the time too, with festival, trip, and student council election arcs. Hell, even Kakegurui itself has done all of those things across its various spin-offs. But it doesn't do them very often, and it always puts a distinctly Hyako Academy twist on them because it understands that simply inhabiting that f***ed up evil school, exploring the dynamics of its social hierarchy, playing wacky Yugi-fied casino games, and sleuthing out all the creative ways the baddies can cheat at them is almost always the most interesting thing its characters could possibly be doing. And obviously, the writers are explicitly trying to make something different from Kakegurui here, but even when I look at it from the perspective of a brand new fan, I feel like Bet is selling me a bill of goods. After the first episode hypes up how up STD prep is, we only get 3 episodes to just barely scratch its surface before Yumeko attempts a murder while Ryan and Mary do a super bad, then the Greendale 7 decides we're doing full campus capture the flag this week, then it's prom time, then the study group puts on the least dangerous, most dangerous game, that's followed by the speakeasy episode leading into the student council retreat 2-parter, and then the show's over. There are also some light gambling bits during the Capture the Flag and Prom episodes, but both of those are just basic bitch high card, low card games, which is also what they replace Vote Rock Paper Scissors with in Mary's first showdown with Yumeko. So that alone, the most basic possible way that somebody could gamble with a deck of cards, accounts for fully 1/3 of the games in this show. The one where they take turns pressing each other on secrets and whoever's heart rate hits 86 first loses is pretty creative, but Suki completely ruins that. And all we get to see Dory do is fucking DDR versus mode and a straight up knife fight in the student lounge. I do gotta hand it to Bet's writer's room. It is very impressive they managed to pen an entire 10-episode TV show, not just with crayons, but crayons shoved up their noses. That takes a lot of dexterity. But it would have been nice if they came up with more than one new idea for a cool gamble in their adaptation of the Cool Gambling School anime. I mean, for a show that is so desperate to claw its way out of Kakegurui's shadow, it is pretty fucking telling that the most memorable and iconic game in all of Bet is the one it copies directly from Kakegurui, Finger Guillotine Chicken. Although, to Bet's credit, it wouldn't work nearly as well as it does if the prop department hadn't absolutely nailed it. And speaking of nails, they did a really good job with Suki's collection of those, too. And a lot of other props. Also, the costumes and sets look about as good as anything with STD written all over it reasonably could. The whole crew deserves big props for this production design. And honestly, the same goes for the cast. When I say I hate Suki, that is entirely on the Steve Buscemi's with crayons up their noses, making him say, "Skibbity, fellow Rizzlers." Ryan Sutherland absolutely eats every rotten table scrap the writers throw his way, and you can tell that everyone on set was having a lot of very campy fun with this not very good script.
Relax. Not the sauce. I stopped drinking.
And another reason Bet's Finger Guillotine bit works so well is it pits the very best parts of that cast against each other, with Eve Edwards Mary finally getting her revenge match against Miku Martineau, who absolutely devours every terrible line she's given as Yumeko.
My name is Yumeko, and I've been bad.
It is an actual crime that an actress this perfectly suited to playing Yumeko Jabami got stuck playing Yumeko Kawamoto instead. When the script allows, she sells Jabami's barely contained crazy and pure psychosexual love of the game with Frankenfurter levels of camp, but unfortunately, Yumeko Kawamoto is way hornier for revenge than a good old roll in the dice, and that's just a way less fun sort of crazy than literally getting off on risking her life, which this version also isn't really allowed to do. And that isn't necessarily a problem in itself. The J-drama adaptation also toned all that stuff down because real-life Ahegao isn't sexy, it's cringe. But the alternative that they came up with here, where Yumeko literally squeeze with delight whenever she wins, feels out of step with how sultry and flirtatious she plays the character otherwise. Like you're listening to a normal pop song, but when they get to the swears, they suddenly splice in the Kids Bop version.
I have to admit, to play with stakes like this, so much on the line, gets my heart racing.
Wow, you're kind of a freak, huh?
Luckily, that is less of a problem in her final face-off with Mary, when the fear of getting a finger chopped off and the desperate energy the actresses are feeding each other adds some much-needed spice to that sweet and bubbly side. And her blackjack game with Kira in the season finale avoids the problem too by putting them both on death's door and making them fight just to pick up their cards by the end. Also, I did really appreciate how this time Yumeko actively trying to kill someone in the cliffhanger of the last episode paid off in some kind of meaningful way. Good job, writers. You improved. As for the game itself, it's just blackjack. Certainly no substitute for Tower of Doors, but the surreal camera work and editing as they become increasingly delirious does still make the scene interesting to watch. And that actually goes for a lot of shots and scenes throughout Bet, as the cinematographer and effects team clearly took some heavy inspiration from Scott Pilgrim and the Wachowski Speed Racer movie in trying to transform its real-life footage into a living manga. Perhaps a little too much inspiration sometimes. It's a casino show, not a video game show. Don't just do stuff because Scott Pilgrim did it. Define your own identity, damn it. Unlike those all-time classics, many of the motion graphics that Bet uses to do this are stupid and terrible. A lot of the fancy shots and transitions simply don't contribute anything to its story. At points, it hits almost Gohan's levels of doing crazy shit with the camera just because it can. But despite all those gripes, I do at least applaud the effort to do something this technically challenging and visually interesting for the people looking up from their phones. Unfortunately, all of that effort and the effort of the actors and production designers is ultimately squandered by the kind of script where it turns out that Yumeko's parents were murdered because they used all their rich Illuminati friends' money to invent Bitcoin, or possibly Betcoin, and she says it with too much accent. I'm not sure. You tell me.
I call it Bitcoin.
And then immediately did the world's first rug pull. Or at least that's what their killer tells Yumeko right before she murders him with, you know, it's funnier if I just let the show say it.
What is that?
The antidote to the poison on that swizzle sword in your heart.
So it is entirely possible he's lying about that, and if he is, from the little context we're given, the real motive for the murder seems to be that all of these rich guys felt threatened by the power of crypto to return financial autonomy to the people by decentralizing currencies and taking big banks and the government out of the mix, which is such a phenomenally stupid thing to think in current year. I almost respect it. Like, if the long-term game plan for this show is the Jabamis got murdered and that's why GameStop never went to the moon, I'm not not here for that. And there is a distinct possibility that this story is gonna be that stupid on purpose, because when I tweeted last week that you would not believe me when I told you how Bet ends, I wasn't talking about the Bitcoin thing. Once she's done killing Mike's dad with a poison swizzle stick, Yumeko and Ryan hop in a sports car to ride off into the sunset. And after dropping the laziest sequel bait line ever written, the show does this.
Done. No. We're just getting started.
Your eyes and ears do not deceive you, and that is not me YouTube pooping. That is the actual edit they actually used in the actual show. They, for real, ended this multi-million-dollar Netflix original series with a city pop rickroll into a which way Western man split-screen sunset. It's hardly the only meme in the soundtrack either, from Dory and Yumeko getting murder horny to the tune of Africa by Toto, to the aforementioned What Is Love needle drop and Final Countdown on clarinet. There are a lot of songs here that will be distinctly familiar to anyone who's been on the internet for the last few decades, but by ending the series on that particular one, the show practically declares itself to be trolling the audience. Either that, or the showrunners don't fully understand what a rickroll is and just thought the kids would enjoy a funny internet song at the end of their funny internet show, which doesn't exactly make it not a shitpost, even if that is the case. Either way, the Japanese cover they picked for the moment does kind of bang, honestly, as does the city pop rendition of Take My Breath Away they play at prom, all the other city pop songs in the soundtrack, and most of the rest of the soundtrack for that matter. It's not exactly a curated, tonally consistent track list and doesn't do much to help the story, but if you pull it up on Spotify, you're not going to be skipping too much. And if this whole thing is indeed just one big, massively expensive shitpost, does the soundtrack even need to be more than a mix of songs the creators liked and the most epic memes Netflix's money could buy? I'll tell you something. As a shitpost artisan, that half-assed attitude disgusts me. A good shitpost has soul, narrative purpose behind every seemingly stupid decision. When I made my Cory in the House What's in an OP, I didn't just regurgitate the Cory is an anime meme. I tracked down footage of the opening from Japanese Disney Channel and lovingly crafted the necessary lore and backstory to fully immerse my viewers in a video essay from an incredibly stupid parallel universe. That video is a work of art, still quite possibly the greatest thing I've ever made. And watching someone take a budget I could have used to make the actual Cory anime I made up and throw it at this Reddit shit, I suddenly understand how Scorsese feels watching Marvel movies. Yes, it is objectively kind of funny that they spent millions of dollars to rickroll everyone on Netflix, and the city pop cover they licensed to do it is a banger and a vibe. It also fits the show's vibe really well, but it's only funny because they spent so much money to make a joke people on the internet have been telling for free for the last 18 years. It's a joke that anyone with that much money could make, and everyone without it already has. To be fair, Bet does try to create its own jokes as well, or force its own memes. Might be the more accurate way to describe it. For instance, whenever Loan Shark Runa has a loan to collect, she calls in the Beaver. A guy in a beaver costume with a lacrosse stick. He is very scary. Apparently, the characters are very scared of him at least. He stands there menacingly quite often and does a Scooby-Doo chase with Ryan once. He's the number 2 also in this fake character poll the show made up for Suki's TikTok channel. You can practically smell how desperate they are to make this guy go viral. And once he takes the mask off, the stink is overpowering.
Who are you? I'm Seth freaking Rollins. Burn it down, bitch.
They did also get his theme song, which I will not be playing because anime companies are bad enough. I ain't f***ing with the WWE. But trust me that its implementation is just as lame as that line read. Now, compare that to the actual peak of commercialized shitposting on Netflix, Neo Yokio, and the difference is night and day. Nobody was memeing on big Toblerones or chocolate bars in general until Jaden Smith tweets the animation made it happen. And it's not just some lol random look at the huge candy joke. There are layers to the big Toblerone. Beyond the almonds, nougat, and honey, I mean. A Toblerone is an empty platitude in chocolate form, the embodiment of, oh shit, I'm already at the airport and I forgot to get a gift. But at the same time, it is an uncommon, foreign, distinctly European treat. The sort of thing that the New York elite's Neo Yokio was made to mock, eat right up. And then there's the size of the Toblerone, which blends all of those elements together into a perfect symbol of mindless consumerist excess. So that when Kaz tells Helena she doesn't deserve the big Toblerone, he is unwittingly paying her a massive compliment. The big Toblerone says something about these characters and the high society shonen battle world they inhabit. All the Beaver says about Bet is they couldn't get John Cena. Just like how all the ending says is, we could get Never Gonna Give You Up. And yet, for all the very mean ways I can describe Bet, boring isn't one of them. Cringy sure is, and stupid, but I can't honestly say I had a bad time watching it. Just a vapid, intellectually insulting one. On my list of all the Hollywood anime things ever, I'd rank it just above ScarJo in the Shell. Not a good show or a good shitpost, and certainly not Kakegurui, but even if I wouldn't actively recommend it to literally anyone, I wouldn't try to stop you from watching it with a group of your most inebriated pals. There is plenty of trash that is way more worth your time though, and if you come back here in just a couple weeks, we will have a whole smorgasbord of it for you, because the Chez Garbage chefs have been absolutely cooking this season. See you then?
Bet on it.